Chapter 14. Nightfall at the Old Mill. Nancy began Chapter 14 with the scrap of paper burning in her thoughts. Meet at the Old Mill. The abandoned mill had always been a place whispered about in River Heights, creaking floors, broken windows, and a history of secrets that made locals avoid it after sunset. But Nancy Drew wasn't deterred. If the missing clock had been taken there, she needed to see it for herself. She waited until dusk before making her way down the winding dirt road that led to the mill. The sky was streaked with fading gold, and the air carried the cool hush of evening. As Nancy approached the looming structure, she noticed fresh tire tracks in the mud. Someone had been there recently. Maybe they were still inside. Nancy slipped through a side door, careful not to disturb the loose boards. The interior was dim, lit only by the last threads of daylight filtering through cracked windows. Dust floated in the air like drifting ghosts. She moved quietly, listening for any sign of movement. Then she heard it, a faint clatter from the upper level. Her heart quickened. She climbed the old staircase, each step groaning beneath her weight. At the top, she found a small workbench, scattered with tools, scraps of paper, and muddy footprints. But what caught her eye was a cloth-covered shape resting on the table. Nancy lifted the cloth. There it was, the old clock, worn, scratched, and unmistakably Crowley's. Before she could examine it further, a sudden crash echoed from below. Someone had entered the mill. Nancy's breath caught as she pressed herself against the wall, listening. Heavy footsteps moved across the floorboards, slow, deliberate, searching. The watcher had followed her. Nancy scanned the room for an escape and spotted a narrow loft window. She grabbed the clock, tucked it under her arm, and climbed onto a beam leading toward the window. The footsteps grew louder, climbing the stairs now. She pushed the window open, slipped outside, and lowered herself onto the slanted roof. A voice barked from inside, angry, frustrated. Nancy didn't look back. She slid down the roof, landed in the tall grass, and sprinted toward the trees. The clock thumped against her side with every step, but she held it tightly. She had it. She finally had it. By the time she reached her car, the mill was silent again, standing like a dark sentinel against the night. Nancy Drew drove away with the clock beside her, her pulse still racing. The truth was now in her hands, and someone knew it.